Like and subscribe right now, or else this will be in your bed tonight. r/AskReddit by Planet Reddit. What is the most humiliating thing your parents found you doing? I'll set the bar pretty high. When I was 41, I went to visit my parents and had to take a shit. For some reason, when I sat on the familiar family throne, I had the urge to jack it like a teenager. I heard a sound above and just briefly caught a glimpse of my 70+ dad's face disappearing from the skylight he was resealing. TLDR, jack-off tales get worse with age. This is brilliant. Your dad probably thought he had escaped catching you in situations, sparing you both the humiliation. Then this happened. At 41. This is the one. There's a mysterious beauty to it as well. I can't put my finger on the nostalgic memories of discovery in pubescence triggered by his childhood toilet. The fleeting glimpse of an ever-judgmental father who reminds him of his shame literally and figuratively from above. The religious connotations are there. Another relic of youth. This would be perfect for a Louis episode. My dad walked in on me squatting over the business end of a hairdryer. I'd not long got out the shower and wanted to blast my gooch with warms. So there I was, naked, with my back to my bedroom door, hovering over the hairdryer. I didn't hear dad walk in due to the hairdryer. He just yelled busted and walked out. When I was about 9 or 10, I had just bought some Nickelodeon gack and was quite excited about it. I played and played and played. As a rather unusual child, the remarkably brilliant idea came to put the gack on my penis. It was gooey and satisfying. My mother walked in to see me laying on my bed with the gack container empty and an incriminating look on my face. She asked, "The gack is in your pants, isn't it?" I shamefully nodded my head. She slowly closed the door and never spoke of it again. TL. Dr. Gack penis. I love how she just knew. Maybe he's put all sorts of shit down his pants before. The watermelon's in your pants, isn't it? The cat's in your pants, isn't it? She's in your pants, isn't she? When I was about 5 or 6, I was at a friend's house for the weekend and for some reason I got naked and jumped up and down on his parents' bed. My friend takes this camera which he says has no film in it and takes loads of pictures with the flash pretending it's some weird kind of photo shoot. Seriously we. Anyway, as it turns out the camera did have film in it and they didn't realize until the dad took it to get developed and got asked some very serious questions by the cops. Yeah. Didn't go to that friend's house anymore after that. Was your friend 30 and living with his parents? He was making art. This was when I was around 8 years old. I went to bed. And I'd always had the habit of going to the toilet in my sleep. Half sleepwalking to the toilet, taking a shit piss, and moving back to bed with the very vaguest knowledge of what happened the next morning one night. I did so as usual. I got up, went to the toilet, sat down and started my business for some reason. My mother came in after me and started shaking me. I had no idea why. So I just kept going. I had to shit. Yeah, no? She then started pushing me towards a seat and was encouraging me to shit on the seat. Confused and half asleep, I did so. What the duck? It's her problem getting fesses off the chair. Turns out I never originally made it to the toilet. Instead I took a shit in the middle of the carpeted hallway. She was actually trying to guide me to the toilet. Not the most dignified moment of my life. I was watching Police Academy when I was about 8. There is a scene at a beach party where there are a few naked breasts on show. My mum walks in to catch me licking the TV screen where the bare breasts were. This is much better than the masturbation stories. More primal. Especially when you consider the nice tingly buzz he could have gotten from a CRT screen that had been running for a few hours. My boyfriend told me the most hilarious story the other day. When he was a teenager he was hypersexual. Like many teenage boys and girls, I suppose. Anyway, he used to get pleasure from unusual tactile sensations, like lying naked in grass and things. One day he was in his family games room, and he decided to explore some of the sensory offerings in there. He took a cushion from the couch and put his dong in it. Clearly this felt nice, because he mounted the cushion against the side of the pool table and started to have his way with it. All of a sudden his mother comes in the door, which is on the opposite side of the pool table. She asks what he's doing in there. He tells her nothing, and so she starts to have a deep and meaningful with him about how he's feeling about life and whether or not he's unhappy. The whole time he has to stay there pressed up against the pool table with his coke and the pillow until she finishes the conversation and leaves the room. Oh thanks sweetie. I've been meaning to fluff those pillows. I think the pillow was fluffing him. Not me, but my 15-year-old sister. I picked her up from some place one day and we got talking about dong. As in Richard, who was someone who lives near us. She couldn't figure out how Richard could be shortened to dong and she thought it was funny. I told that if she thinks that's bad she should know what the short version of Sarah is. I told her it was done. She had a hard time believing it. I text my brother to get him in on it, and long story short we had convinced her that dunt was short for Sarah. Anyway, nothing comes of this for weeks until she comes home from school one day in a bad mood. She had got after school detention for a week. We asked her why and she says they had to do a presentation in class. Her and her friends Aoife and Sarah. Sarah had passed on the speaking part to my sister and she had said thanks dunt, and she got detention for swearing. She had to try and explain that she was stupid gullible enough to believe me that dunt was to Sarah what dong is to Richard. She had also told her friends about this and they also believed her. At least my sister took some convincing. I worry about her sometimes. This would go unnoticed in Australia. Fangas a dub. Cheers. Dunt. Regular ordinary primary school conversation. Countless times. Jacking it. Parents just got to the point they stopped opening doors. Period. However, my brother was caught jerking it on the family computer. In the living room. To go porn. At like 3:30. In the afternoon. Expert mode. Hard mode. I fortunately haven't had anything horribly humiliating happen to me, but I do have a lovely story about my sister that embarrasses the heck out of her whenever it's told. When she was about 6 years old she had a gigantic crush on Aaron Carter. She named this body pillow we had in the house after him and said it was her boyfriend. One day she heard me and a friend talking about sex. God. How did I know what that was at 9 years old? And asked what it was. We told her it's when you lay down on the person you love and hump them. Though I probably didn't use the word hump. One day my mom and I walked into her room where she's furiously humping Aaron Carter. Mom gets this gigantic look of shock on her face and asks what she's doing, and my sister replies having sex with my boyfriend. My poor sister. I will never let her forget that one. Suddenly I remember being dared to hump a television and walk around my parents' party making broad wanking gestures before I was old enough to know what it meant. Lordy. The shit parent must witness that you don't remember doing. Childhood is a lot like being drunk. You don't remember most of it. And other people remind you of the shit you did. When I was young, me and my female friends used to play doctor. Which looking back involved some pretty disturbing things for 5-year-old girls to be doing. Once we were having a sleepover and my mum walked into me stark naked with 3 fully clothed other girls around me inserting small paint brushes into my vagina. Still to this day I have no idea what she thought. Holy shit. The rumors about what happens at girls' slumber parties are true. If they start lezzing out, just keep cool butters. Not my story, but my friend has a pretty embarrassing story. It was about middle school and he thought he was home alone. He had just taken a shower and for some random reason had a boner. He was a really weird kid and just for the heck of it he thought it would be funny to walk around with a clothes hanger dangling from his erection. As he is walking around the house like this, it turns out his dad was home and walks around the corner, so they are both staring at each other. His dad doesn't say a word and all that he can get out of his mouth is I didn't think anyone was home. I don't think they ever once discussed it. Imgur.com link. Ronaldo. Conflicted. I don't know why, but I asked my mum why does my willy get hard when I see a pretty girl? A kid I babysat proceeded to pull his pants off and proudly proclaim, "Look Brock and Phoenix. When I touch it, it gets hard." Why does it do that? He was 4ish? Probably still 3, about to turn 4. I don't remember. I just told him he shouldn't do that and to ask his mommy or daddy when they got back. I gave them a heads up. They gave me an extra 10 bucks. I thought he named his penis a Brock and Phoenix before I saw your username. Sorry. Jerking off into a empty 2-liter bottle in the kitchen. 14 years old and had a $50 bet that I could fill it in a year. And? Did you? Google calculator. 2 liters equals 405.76872 US teaspoons. Average cum shot. 1 stroke 2 teaspoon equals to about 812 cum shots distributed throughout the year. 2 cum shots daily. Perfectly doable. When I was 6 years old, my mother used to babysit my neighbor Annie. Annie was a very artistic girl. She loved to color and draw everything she saw. One day, I was playing Star Fox 64 on my Nintendo 64 and Annie was watching. Of course. Being too absorbed in the game, I never turned around to see her greatest work of art. My mom walks in the room to check on us and does a gasp to end all gasps. Annie had made a drawing of a triangular looking ship with a circle around it. It was Star Fox doing a barrel roll. Except she made it with a load of diarrhea she scooped out of her pants. Masturbating. To Princess Jasmine from Aladdin. There. I said it. Ahuwa Olniwa world. Don't you dare close your eyes. In the 8th grade, my friends and I had a bunch of videos of ourselves going stupid things. On one of them, I figured out that I could lay on the ground, roll backwards, and have my knees touch the ground behind my ears. My dad was looking through the camera for family videos when he found this one. He looked at me and said, "I know what you were trying to do." I was baffled. "What are you talking about?" "You were trying to suck your own penis." "That really wasn't why." "What?" "No." I said exactly like Mark Wahlberg in The Happening because I realized that my dad had found the best explanation for what was going on screen and I had no way to convince him otherwise. "Do you still talk into your brother's ass? Or was it a one-time thing?" Haha, I'm proud to say it was just a one-time thing. "How did you decide who the microphone was and who the singer was?" Well, she never did find out. But one time I was furiously masturbating at around the age of 14. You know, the days where you'd rub it out for an hour, teetering on the edge. Anyway, I decided that this was the home run and I'd finally finish the session. Right as I get that blissful, warm clarity just before orgasm, in walks mum with the laundry, chatting away about some irrelevant ducking story. Pants are down. The speakers are quietly on. Porn in full screen. Needless to say, that 1 second I had to react seemed to last forever. What do I do first? Speakers off? Screen off? Pants up? Tissues to catch the load? I scooted my chair under the table, solving the pants down issue for the moment, and I quickly tabbed out to a YouTube video I had prepared for post-bat entertainment and hit play, effectively drowning out the porn. Happy ending, you say? No. For the next 15 seconds I had the most intense, throbbing orgasm. Shooting load after load all over myself, all the while trying to hold a conversation and fake interest in another one of my mum's work stories. I'd love to say she buzzkilled my orgasm, but it was still awesome and that might be the most disturbing part. I had a deep, mind-blowing orgasm to my mum's voice. TL. Doctor had an intense throbbing orgasm mid-conversation with my mum. Secretly shooting loads all over myself under the table. This is very interesting. You know, the days where you'd rub it out for an hour, teetering on the edge. Those days should really never stop. Not me, but 2 of my friends who were brothers were caught blowing air from a bicycle pump into their ass. Then one of them farted for about 40 seconds straight, then proceeded to shit all over the carpet. It was not one of his most dignified moments. Totally not you. No. It was a friend of a friend. His little brother. That lives next to my aunt. You know. Not me. When I was about 12, my brothers and I used to borrow my parents' camcorder to make terrible home films. One night, after using the camera for day and donging around with my siblings, for some reason I had an overwhelming urge to record myself fapping, or attempting to, as the case may be. Lo and behold, A couple of days later, mother decides to show a family friend some videos she took of her darlings playing in school concerts and the like. Plugging in the camcorder to the VHS, or whatever. I was too young to work it out, and it's all using computers nowadays. Duck you. She fast forwards through our crap films and tries to get to the concert footage. After about a minute and a half of me standing up on stage, squeaking away on my little violin, the footage cut to black. Only to be replaced with me violently whacking it. Camera placed on the foot of my bed. Making eye contact with the camera the entire time. No facial expressions whatsoever. I never received a lecture about use of the camera. Or replacing the tape inside it. My parents have never mentioned it to me or anyone else. All I knew then was that one day we were allowed to use the camera. And the next, we weren't. Now when I look back at it, I shudder. Edit. Holy response, Batman. And yeah, I guess you all knew where this was going from the start. That is exactly where I thought it was going. Now I'm just intrigued as to where he thought we thought it was going. I was at my grandmother's wedding when I was 6 years old. She was getting married for the second time and the church we were in was completely packed. Keep in mind this is a church in rural Alabama. Which makes this that much funnier. I was sitting in the front row with my parents and sister, who was 16 at the time. My sister turns to me and tells me that it is respectful to hold up both of your middle fingers when the bride and groom kiss. So being the loving grandson I am, I find this as a perfect and simple way to show my respect for the new marriage. So I wait. And right when she leans in to kiss the groom, I thrust my arms up in the air in a packed church, flipping off my grandmother and her new husband. I hear several gasps and old women saying oh my. I look around with this big ducking grin on my face as if I'm doing this great service to humanity. I look at my sister and she is hunched over, with a beet red face, laughing uncontrollably. My mom finally notices what I'm doing, grabs my arms with the grip of a professional wrestler and pulls them down. She starts cursing at me and asking me what the hell I'm doing. I tell her what my sister told me. And she gave my sister a death glare that would make most men shit their pants. After the ceremony she pulled her aside and gave her a few choice words. She then told me what it really meant. And I felt horrible. I was so ashamed and embarrassed. I think about it now and can't help but laugh. My sister was a master troll. TLDR, I flipped with my grandmother during her wedding in a packed church. My dad walked in on me when I was 10-11 years old, humping a pillow in my room while singing Jingle Bells. Back in 2004, having just returned from Iraq, my wife and I celebrated by heading to Jamaica. Heat 03. We had the atypical fun down there and head back to our hometown to spend a week with family before heading back to Alaska where we were stationed. On my deployments to Iraq, I had gotten a fat re-enlistment bonus that I spent an over-the-top Voodoo PC laptop. I was very excited to show off my laptop when we got to my mom's house and I hooked it up to her TV to show my pictures from Iraq and our vacation. Well, my dumbass hadn't broken the pics into good vacation and bad vacation pics, so here we are. My wife and her parents and my mom and I sitting around this 50+ inch big screen when all of a sudden a nice shot of my wife's vagina pops up in 50-inch Technicolor. Oh god. I panicked, started trying to click through the pics. Each got progressively worse. It was about the time when my junk was in her mouth and she was looking up at me that I yanked the cable from the TV. The only sound to be heard was my deep exhale and the sobbing of my wife next to me. Yeah. My mom, being full of class, brings that up every time we are in town. Hey, could have been worse. Could have been pictures of someone else's. This is a good one. One evening when my parents were out, I cracked my father's toy box, a locked cupboard beside the bed where he kept his porn and all the toys he uses with my mother. Don't even ask. It took me years to process this discovery. Dildos, vibrators, pumps for varying body parts, anal plugs, anything. And of course the porn, which I was after. So, when I was around 14-15, I used to open this cupboard on a pretty regular basis by taking off the whole upper part with various tools to avoid the front lock. My father never had a clue because I was very thorough in leaving no trace of evidence. To get to the porn underneath I had to go through the toys. So I placed them very careful on my parents' bed. In the order I got them out so I could put them back as they were. I got to the magazines eventually, carefully passing the Polaroids my parents took of themselves when they were in their 20s. Immediate deal breaker once you catch a glimpse of your mom sucking coke. And started exercising my beloved craft. In my own room of course. When I was done my cat was waiting for me with the usual Momo food let me out into the garden routine. I did her bidding like a good can opener. And distracted by this, noticed it was already time for The Simpsons. I carelessly started watching TV, completely forgetting the state I left my parents' bedroom in. An hour later my parents came home. I was still watching TV when I heard my father screaming "What the duck?" from upstairs. That was the moment it dawned on me. My mom went to see what was going on and came back laughing her ass off. I didn't see my father that evening and I didn't look him into the eyes the rest of the week. My mother actually offered me to ask for things if I was ever in need again. To this day she thinks I was using her dildos and I can't bring myself to clear this up with my parents. So my mother might take the idea into the grave with her that her son, yes I'm male, think I should have mentioned this earlier, used her toys for masturbation. The end. Bro. You just made me feel a lot better about coming across the one massager and bottle of lube that my parents had in a cupboard by their bed. If it makes you feel any better, I once came across Polaroids of my grandmother having sex and sucking dong. Funny how we have to realize that our family is made up of just plain old people with the same desires as everyone else. Also, when my dad found out I had borrowed some of his porno tapes, he told me just to keep them. He'd rather me take care of my own business than get knocked up. Oh dear. So ducking awkward. You seriously made me feel so much better and less weird. I was in my room jacking it. Sitting on a chair. I heard the door open and tried to pull my underwear up but only got halfway. The front of my underwear was up to my waist but my ass was bare sitting on the chair. She sees this and instead of noping out of the room stands there and asks why I'm still awake. And why my pants are halfway down. I gave her some story about how I was getting undressed until she rudely came in. She had to know what was really going on. But I don't know why she stuck around asking those questions. She wasn't usually a troll mom. And she didn't seem to be getting a kick out of this. Just genuinely concerned with why I was sitting bare-assed in a chair in the middle of the night. Potentially the one case where the parent really didn't know. Oblivious suburban mom. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for 3 videos a day.